And I believe that we are live now. Good evening to everybody.
Good evening,
Hello.
Igal.
Good evening.
Good evening.
Good evening, everyone.
Before we start, I just want to go to our Amazon Nonstop group. And I want to check that people actually can see us. And maybe they can see us and hear us. Yeah, I can see all of us. We are broadcasting. We are live now.
Okay.
So, guys, thank you for joining us. Thank you for cleaning your schedule for us. I know that it wasn't easy. And we had some challenges. And we have very special panel today. So before we start to explain and to tell everybody what we're going to talk about tonight, or I don't know, maybe in your areas it's morning or afternoon, I just want to say that we have two historical things that happened today in our broadcast. First of all, this is the first time that we're broadcasting at 8 p.m., so it's a little bit unusual. So we will wait for all the regular viewers that got used to 9 p.m., they will join in the next few minutes. And the other historical thing, which is very, very interesting and made me very excited, that we have today really special panel of 7 different persons, of 7 different professionals that are going to talk tonight about very special, interesting, and hot issue. And thank you for that, guys. So the subject tonight is how to expand our business to new marketplaces. Most of us are selling in the US, and many people really curious about Japan, Australia, Europe, how to manage it after the Brexit, how to expand yourself. Can it be easy, difficult? What about the taxes? What about the reviews? Is it the same as seen, or we need to create everything from the beginning, from scratch? And how should we manage our listings and accounts in different languages? So you guys tonight here to give us solutions and to show us that everything can be simple if we are doing it right. So before we start to talk about it, I want to give you a few minutes to introduce yourself. And again, guys, thank you for being here tonight. I think, Melanie, it's a great idea to start with you. So good evening to Melanie.
Thank you, Igal. Thank you so much for inviting us on this webinar. We're really, really excited. I actually feel like I'm in Israel right now, so I'm looking forward to end of May, where we're going to be having that brilliant event in Tel Aviv. So
Great.
Super excited about that. So my name is Melanie Shabangu. I'm one of the tax directors and partner of Avask Accounting and Business Consultants, which is a firm that helps sellers to expand into global marketplaces. So really what we do, we follow Amazon. Where Amazon is, Avask is there. Thank you.
Thank you, Melanie. And I go to Tim Nelson.
Thank you, Igal. My name's Tim Nelson. I am the CEO of Avask USA. I'm also a CPA. And what we do here at Avask US is we specialize in helping Amazon sellers file their taxes and help them sell appropriately here in the US. But most importantly, we help clients expand into the US. So for those of you looking to expand and want to sell in the US and want to make sure you're registered correctly, we would be here to help.
Interesting. Thank you, and thank you for the introduction. And Yana, I just talked about the difficulty with the languages. So tell us about your services.
Hi, everyone. My name is Yana, and I'm the owner and CEO of YLT Translations, and we help sellers expand to all global Amazon marketplaces. We take care of everything when it comes to content, keywords, localization, everything a lot of sellers have problems with and make tons of mistakes with.
Great. Thank you for joining us, Yana. And
Thank
Steve,
you for having me.
Good afternoon to Steve.
Hey, yeah, it's actually even still morning here, everybody, in Seattle. I'm in the mother of the heart of the motherland here when it comes to Amazon. Everything happens here.
There, yeah.
Yeah, so I'll meet with the team later, tell you how things are going to be in the future. No, the way I look at this is my experience having sourced for over 30 years, including 20 years in China, I'm here to help you guys kind of figure out how to cross borders. And my partner, Kevin King, and I have a business called Product Savants, and I also am the founder and supporter of Empowery, which is a nonprofit member cooperative. So I'm here to help, and hopefully we'll share some wisdom.
Great. Thank you for that, and nice to meet you. And Amy.
Hey everyone, great to be here. I'm Amy Weiss. I'm the founder of Amazing at Home, and we offer courses, consulting, and copywriting, as well as host events for Amazon sellers around the world. We're actually, speaking of international marketplaces, we have a sourcing trip to Mexico coming up because there's a lot of demand for sourcing in the Americas. Yeah. So that's kind of the most exciting thing I have going on right now, but I'm excited to be here, and thanks for having me.
Great. Thank you for being here. And Nir Zigdon, how are you, my friend?
Hi, nice to meet you. Good. It's wonderful to see all these special and VIP guests in our group. So first, thank you about this host webinar tonight, and Hanit also, of course. Nir Zigdon, co-founder of Ecommunity, we Amazon agency, SPN agency. So we are love to business to grow on the Amazon marketplace. And I have also two of my private label brands on Amazon, so I'm also a seller. And it's a pleasure to be here today with all these important people.
Great. Thank you for being here, Nir. And we will talk about it a little bit more later. But most of us here, guys, going to meet each other in the conference that will happen in Tel Aviv in the end of May, right, Nir?
Right, end of May, 31 to May by Medak Conference Group. It's going to be the biggest conference of e-commerce in Israel. It's the number 9 years that we do that. But after the COVID, it's going to be around 2,000 attendants, and great guests there like Avask that coming and respect us, and Getida, and more great company. Of course, me and you.
Yeah, and actually, I promised to Melanie that I'm going to show her Tel Aviv, so she's coming in the perfect time, like end of May.
Absolutely, it's the best time.
So we'll see you there for business and for pleasure. But now it's a good time to start. And Melanie, I want to ask you. So now I have a nice business, a medium or big business in Amazon, United States. I have 20 different listings, and everything is working, maybe less, I don't know, but I'm happy. But I want to expand my business now. I want to make it bigger, and I feel that in the US, I got the top of the roof. So I heard that people can make nice profits in Japan, in Australia, or even in Europe after the Brexit with all the new, rules and with challenges. So what are my first steps? How should I start it?
That is a very, very good question. Do you know what? I wish we had actually been given some of these questions. Usually in webinars, they give you the question, you sort of go through rehearsing. This one was do you know what, guys? We're going to show our experiences on what we know. And of course, my colleagues here, they can actually jump in and chime in if they think they can support me on this. But we've also obviously been helping Amazon sellers mainly to expand into Europe since 2013. And during that period, there's been so many changes that have taken place. And I would say, I never thought that at least 2 years after people be talking about Brexit, as far as how it's affected everybody. But I would say right now we are in a good place. And I'm actually proud to say that in the UK, we don't give it credit a lot of times on a lot of things. But, I feel like we were ready for Brexit, even though it happens. Our borders from a shipping point of view, they continued. But there were those sort of little steps that needed to be taken. Europe became a bit complicated again because, when each time there is something that is new that is put in front of you, it becomes like a huge obstacle. It becomes like it's something that has never happened. Now, we have seen sellers that have actually stopped selling between UK and Europe and UK, because they couldn't fathom the amount of work that was needed all of a sudden, or even to think about it. And I think the news as well, they made it like it was going to be the end of the world. One thing that is good that I always say is that the good thing is that from a map point of view and geographically, we haven't moved anywhere from Europe. There's just been little rules that have been tweaked. So what we are looking at is that we always looked at sellers being required to have what's called VAT, which is value added tax, in order for them to expand into Europe. So whether they're expanding into the UK or into Europe, they still need to do that. Now, the customs border that was put in place, it was then what it did, it sort of like ring-fenced the UK, but it still left Europe as it is. So which means you could still ship into Europe. The nice part about it is that the Brexit, it made countries to sort of like start thinking. The likes of France, we saw them introducing PVA, which is postponed VAT accounting. And that is one of the most beautiful, I would say, legislation that they put in place, because what that does, it means that I don't have to have an outlay of import VAT when I'm expanding into Europe, and especially when shipping to France, which is something that was happened before Brexit. So that's a good thing. Right? And then the UK as well introduced it before France. So they introduced PVA. It's not like a VAT whereby it's going to take months and months to apply for. I can get it done for you within the hour. I can get you be able to ship into Europe and not pay import VAT at the initial stages, but this is reclaimed via your VAT return, or paid, either you pay to the tax authorities or you are being refunded whatsoever that is owed to you to the tax authorities. So it just makes life so much easier for anybody that is looking to trade with Europe. So you can come through trade in Europe via France, say for instance, and then, or you could do it via the UK. Now, what's different now is that because there is a border between Europe and UK, I would expect that if you were carrying out your shipments, you're going to ensure that your goods are coming through to one country in Europe. So which means you're going to have a VAT number, say for France. And I say France because it's one of my preferred option, followed by the Netherlands. So from a shipping point of view, it just makes life easier.
You're talking about the logistics.
From a logistics point of view,
yeah.
Yes.
But you know, I want to stop you for a second, and I want to ask you, because many people told me, like, if you want to start with your Euro business in Amazon, it's better idea to open your seller account from Italy. So I tried to get some questions and to understand why, and nobody could explain me. So is there any difference from opening your account, I don't know, in France or in Italy or in Spain?
So there are huge differences from a logistics point of view. If you're going to be looking at trading in Europe and UK, you're going to have a VAT number in the country where you're going to be storing your products. So you would have a UK VAT and probably one or two VAT numbers in Europe, Germany or France, which is where you're going to be storing your products. Now, from a shipment point of view, so logistics point of view, I wouldn't, from an accounting point of view, I would say never think of shipping into Italy. And I'll tell you why. Because you will hardly, the chances of you being refunded your import VAT that you pay, the initial outlay that you pay based on the cost of goods when the goods are coming through into Europe, a bit slim. It can take at least a minimum of 12 months to have that import VAT refunded to you. Whereas if you ship into France and you've got PVA, then it means that you don't even have to worry to have that initial outlay of import VAT, and that improves your cash flow. So which means you just have to worry about when the VAT return comes. And now the UK as well has got the same system as France. And then Germany, And all the other countries, they have not changed from how or what is actually required when you are shipping there. But what you just need to make sure is that in each and every country that you're going to be shipping to or storing your products, you need to have a VAT number and an ERI number. Now, previously, you needed only one ERI number. Today, you need to have two, one for the UK and one for Europe.
Okay, so again, about the VAT, if I'm selling like from Germany, and I don't know, once a month somebody buying from me from Italy, like 1 unit, so I need to pay my taxes and have a VAT in each country in Europe, or it's general?
Yeah, so from again, it depends on where your company is incorporated. If your company is incorporated in Israel, say for instance, so you're storing your goods in Germany, and you've got clients that are buying your products in Italy, the OMP is the one that is responsible for ensuring that VAT amount is paid to the tax authorities. You will file in the country whereby you are VAT registered. So again, the marketplaces, I think if maybe you think like the US, probably a bit slightly different. Amazon in most of the states, Tim, you're going to chime in and maybe talk about that. But Amazon remits the taxes to the IRS. And same applies in Europe, whereby the tax authorities, they made the marketplace to be the facilitator. So which means it's a huge advantages from sellers, because it means now they don't have to be worried about the fact that they've got to pay VAT to the tax authorities, because the marketplace facilitates that. So they are the ones that are doing the collection of the funds and remit it to the relevant tax authorities.
Okay, and you in Avask, like, for example, if I'm a great Amazon seller, but I really hate bureaucracy and accounting, so you guys can give me like one-stop solution for everything, like, you know, to make for me and manage for me like the taxes for each country, and to make everything legal, because we all the time we're afraid that we are doing something against the law.
I would say again, that's a good question, Igal. So the times of non-compliance, I would say that they are over, whereby we saw that there was an unfair competition that was put on sellers in the West, where people were coming in and not being VAT registered and not being compliant. And that's why the responsibility has been put to the marketplace that is deemed as your host of your product. So it's okay for you if you turn around and say you're not going to be VAT registered. The marketplace is not going to allow you to trade in their marketplaces without you being VAT registered. Now, the good thing in Europe is that you won't have to register in each and every country for you to be able to trade. So you could just turn around and say, well, I'm going to choose two countries. I'll go with France and Germany, and I'll go with UK. But I'm going to get my product listed in all the other marketplaces that are there. And it's lovely to have Yana here, because, you know, I believe that we work as a system. It's okay for you to turn around and say to me, I am going to be selling my products in Europe. And I'll turn around and say, wow, honestly, I appreciate that you speak English, but you will need the products to be translated in the relevant languages in all the other countries as well. So which means it makes the whole thing, it is a system from a launching point of view. It's okay to look at the fact that you've got the VAT number now, but it gets more than that. And probably Amy will talk about brand building. How do you actually get to launch that product on a marketplace? And maybe we take 10 steps back into sourcing. What is it that you're going to be selling into Europe? Where is it going to be manufactured? What about your cost analysis, your pricing? How are you going to be pricing your product? VAT is just another small piece, but it's also another very much important piece of the puzzle.
You know, honestly, there's something really sexy on sourcing and marketing and build your brand, but tax and VAT and all the different letters and words, it's not something that we like to handle with. So thank you for the really great answer, Melanie. And now I just want to ask Yana, okay, so I found all my solution for the bureaucracy, and now I'm relaxed and I want to continue. But seriously, I have maybe in Europe, how many Amazon marketplaces? Like 8, 7?
There are 8.
8. Okay, and I want to expand my business to Japan and to Australia, and I'm thinking about the investment. Like I need to create new content, like with titles and bullet points and new A+ content, like, you know, with all the graphics and everything. And I'm talking now about the images, the main image, the infographics, the environment images, and everything supposed to be relevant to the audience in each country in their language. So I need to invest, like, I don't know, a lot of thousands of dollars to only start check my business. So can you tell us about your solution? How does it work?
Yeah, so basically, yeah, where do I start? I start with the point that the international, like sellers that expand to international marketplaces, they don't care much about their content. That's like quite, you know, quite the common state of, you know, like an international expansion team or the seller himself or herself, because they don't understand the content. So they think like, I have this content, and then if I don't understand it, I don't care. But the consumers speak other language and they will understand it. It doesn't really matter that you don't understand it, your team doesn't understand it, your future buyers will understand it. So a lot of people treat their content as like the last thing. Like it's always PPC and like images, and of course all of that is important, but like 6 months after your launch of product, if you start getting bad reviews, if your click-through rates go you know, like lower, that's probably going to be because your content is not great. You don't have keywords, or maybe confusing the audience. That all affects a lot of things. And then that's when like usually a lot of people contact us and they're like, hey, so we got this Google Translate to do the content, or we hired someone on Fiverr, and they're like, but we might think it's not actually that good because we don't have keywords. You know, how do you imagine to have keywords from a machine translation? Like AI is not advanced at all at this point. It will be at one point in the future, but at this point you can expect very simple machine translators such as Google Translate or Amazon Launchpad to do a fantastic job with that. So basically a lot of people don't treat content the same way they do in the US or the UK, where they understand English. So that's something that I see all the time. It doesn't matter how big or small you are. We've worked with 6-7 figures to like multi-brands like HP, Panasonic. Those big brands, they really have no idea how Amazon works. But like a lot of very big private label sellers don't know that either. They can like conquer the US marketplace, but they're not doing great on international marketplaces, mostly because their content is not great. Like what I've like done, I've done this Prosper Remix presentation, and I've decided to just take 5 different products, like 5 top best-selling products in 5 different categories across German and Mexican marketplace. And I literally took like 15 top competitors, and usually 13 or 14 have no idea what they're doing with their content. Like they're ranked, they sell, but you can beat them like easy on the content. And what's really interesting is that all these like big brands like Philips or Revlon, like what they do is like they use their branded keywords, like Revlon hairbrush, which you can't use because they're branded, but they don't use any other ones. They have like big like ranking juice or like relevancy or anything like that. And I bet that like I even took like hairbrush, which is like, you know, it's like has better quality of competitors, but there's still so much you can do with that because people don't understand those keywords that have the hidden potential. I'm saying hidden because you don't understand them. So like, you know, whatever you do is always about the keyword research being done on each marketplace separately and doing content with someone who knows and understands what's basically the process of creating a good sales copy and integrating these keywords, because a good copy and like a good listing that has a natural flow is nothing without keywords. I would say keywords first and then content second. Also, overall, when it comes to a listing, of course, images are, you know, the most important thing, but without keywords, nobody will find your listing. Just depends on like the question is like, what is more important in certain phase of your selling? But I would say like if you start selling your product, like the most important thing is like keywords, because without those, you're not going to be found. In international marketplaces, a lot of sellers use completely irrelevant keywords. They use a lot of too broad keywords instead of exact ones in the title and the bullets and so on. And this is something that happens all the time. So, you know, instead of saving like, I don't know, $50, and because translations are not that expensive. I mean, you spend thousands of dollars on PPC and other things each month. This is basically like a one-time project. So I really don't understand why people don't want to invest more in that stage when you should, but then they invest like 6 months later when they've already spent like a lot of time and money. So that's the difference. And of course, what a lot of people do is like, when it comes to their content, is like set it and forget it. They never do optimization. There's like less than 5% of sellers that we work with, and we work with like, we do a couple of thousands of ASINs every month. Like there's like big volume work that we do. There's like less than 5% of sellers that come back and they're like, hey, so do you also do optimization? Like they're just like, okay, I'm done. This is like check, check, check. And then we never do optimization, which is absolutely wrong, because it doesn't really matter. Maybe this optimization will not bring you any new keywords, but then you'll be absolutely sure that you're ranked for the relevant ones. So this is something that,
if I can back you up on that, from that side of things, like, you know, as a consultant, I work with so many people and audit their PPC. And most of the time, the reason they're spending too much on PPC is because they're not relevant for the keywords they're bidding on. And so because they haven't optimized from the beginning, I can take the example. We were looking at the business reports in a client of mine who's in Europe. We were looking at their business reports and their sessions across different countries in Europe. And we saw that in France, they had like no sessions. But in Germany, this product was just selling like crazy and they had really great sessions. So we look, and the main keyword they were using in their title in French didn't even make sense. It wasn't searchable. So that's the reason they weren't showing up in search. They weren't getting sessions. And when you're launching a bunch of products across a bunch of different marketplaces and you're just Google translating that or just throwing it out there to a VA to get done, and that VA doesn't understand SEO, you know, us in the US, we're SEO copywriters, and I would completely agree. You know, nobody really reads a listing. They're going to look at your pictures first, but they can't get to your pictures if you have no SEO. And especially when we're talking about international marketplaces, I love, Yana, when you talk about this around the world at various conferences, because you make the point of this thing is not necessarily called that when people search for it in the language on their marketplace, right? We need to make sure that we're properly translating in the native language. And that made all the difference. So we made just one change to his title. We looked at similar listings, made just one change to his title, and all of a sudden, all the impressions start coming, right? And hey, we actually are getting sales now. So yeah, it's huge. And you wouldn't believe how many people waste, even in the US marketplace, I see it all the time. People waste thousands of dollars on PPC, and they're not even showing up organically in search. And their competitors, if they look at how many keywords their competitors are ranking for compared to them, they're very, very low. And that's all because they're not using the right keyword phrases in the right order in the listing. So yeah, I just wanted to back that up for a minute.
This is very great and important tip, which is very simple.
Have a really good, sorry for interrupting. I just have a really good tip to close my my presentation with, and that's so I was mentioning that I was doing this presentation. I just randomly took like a couple of bestsellers across the marketplaces, and what I found out is actually, so like English keywords, like people often ask me like, what about English keywords? Like, would you like use them here and there? So a lot of times people just think like, okay, no English because they don't speak English. But let's say, for instance, with this water bottle, which was like specifically for German marketplace, and they don't use English words unless the words fitness, smartwatch, and maybe a couple of others that are okay to be in the front end listing. But let's say this water bottle showed up and it had search volume of 12,500. That was the search volume of that one. So you would want to include it in backends because there are clearly people searching for it, and not just gonna delete it because it's like English and like, no, we're not gonna use anything that has English in it, because for some products, it really makes sense to leave it in backend, but not in front end. I see like a lot of brands using it like in the title, it has search volume, but it's not the strongest keyword. And in the culture of, like, let's say European languages, it's not common to use like English long tail keywords unless they're like quite common in everyday language, which they're probably not. Yeah.
So everything that you're telling about now, your copywriters know and understand. They're not like just writers. They understand Amazon algorithm, the thing with the ranking juice.
Yeah, absolutely. They're all trained. I've trained them myself. I have like a knowledge base like full of videos where everyone who works with us are actually Amazon trained, and they understand Amazon, the lengths of the title, the forbidden words, how to do keyword research. So we really know, like, you know, how to rank better and how to get the sales going on those international marketplaces, because it's really not that difficult, because a lot of people are doing a horrible job. So basically, if you optimize it with good keywords, you have to see results.
So what are the services like you're giving this content with the right keywords for organic ranking? You can create for us the right keywords for PPC campaigns in the local language, and any other service that somehow related to languages.
Yeah, we cover basically all content, which means like if you have packaging that needs translation, which is not mandatory in order to be shipped across Europe, we do that as well. Follow-up emails. We do also copywriting, not only translations. We do brand store translation, websites, Shopify, basically everything. We do like flat file creation. We basically cover everything when it comes to content.
Thank you for the answer and for the presentation, Yana. And basically we can find you on Facebook, right?
Yes, Facebook, LinkedIn, whatever you guys want. I'm always there.
So thank you for that. And Amy and Steve. Amy, I know that you need to leave us a little bit before we end. So I just want to forward you and questions. I want to ask you questions. And by the way, I want to tell to our viewers that feel free to ask questions. We have like super VIP panel, as Nir told before. So I will forward the relevant questions. And meanwhile, I want to ask Amy and maybe Steve together. So I have great product in Amazon US with high demand. Everything is working and everything is successful. But is there straight a relationship between my success in the US and in Europe or other marketplaces? And if it's profitable in the US, should it be the same in other marketplaces in Europe?
Well, I'm sure Steve will have something to add to this as well, but no, not necessarily. Just like you need to, what we see a lot of overseas sellers that don't live in the US, they'll launch things on the Amazon marketplace that Americans like to buy in stores and don't like to buy online. And then they don't understand why their sales aren't very good, or why a popular retail brand is doing so well on Amazon, even though they have a really bad listing, right? And it's because people trust that brand and they're buying refills of that product or additional units of that product. So just because something does well in the United States marketplace doesn't mean that it's going to do well in another marketplace. So, and also doesn't mean it's going to do well on another channel in the US. So if I'm selling on Amazon and I want to move to Walmart.com, or I want to move to Lowe's.com or subscription boxes or anything like that, I need to go and look and see how can I carve out a piece of that market, right? So even if you don't have search volume tools to look at those other marketplaces, you should go as the customer and look yourself and see, like, what does my page one look like? The page one, am I going to have to pay for ads here? What is this? In most cases, we're going to have to pay for ads, right? But if there's 50 pages of competition, or if there's one page and all the products on that page are not selling so well, then maybe that could tell us something, right? So you always have to do the market research and the validation of your product market fit to ensure that, you know, that product's going to do well in that marketplace. And then another thing to think about from a launching standpoint is your packaging. In many cases, your packaging, if it has like the English language on it, right, and you want to launch, let's say in Japan, the requirements are that you have to update with all of the languages of the places that you're selling. So you may need to make some updates to your packaging that, now have Japanese and English on it. You'll notice if you buy the Amazon Fire TV or any of Amazon's devices, that on the side of the box is like all the languages from all of the marketplaces. They're like tiny. You need a microscope to read them. But that's something else to think about before you launch is, are there any packaging requirements? What do I need to do to communicate with the customer in that market? Also, your pricing, right? A lot of people get enrolled in, for example, the North American Remote Fulfillment Program, which allows you to sell your products from the US to Canada and Mexico. And sometimes the fees for that can be more than maybe your profit margin, right? So not necessarily, but you're also going to have to do some money translations, right? Figuring out, okay, how much is this in Canadian dollars and what does that mean to my bottom line, right? Do I have the space for that? And then also if you're having to ship overseas, your products, let's say you're selling in Europe right now, and you're going to ship your products now to the US, you also need to think about additional shipping charges, right? What are those import charges, especially, and then you might want to change up your supply chain, and I'm sure Steve can add on to this, but I know for me, like one of my products is made in the USA, my other products are made in China. So before I start selling in Europe, I'm going to ensure that my next order from China is actually sent straight to Europe, the parts that's going to Europe. I'm not going to import that into the US and then export it again over to Europe. I'm not going to pay for those things or have the accounting nightmare of trying to get my money back, of moving my products between all of those countries. So we really have to think about our logistics. We have to think about where are we sourcing from and what are the fees for shipping those products around. What does the packaging need to look like? And most importantly, before we do any of that, we need to look at the product market fit and see if it's like, if there's good space for us to get on our page one and, with the right translation, of course, of the listing and make a sale and be appealing to that market and that customer.
Great. It's amazing. So as I understand, it's not necessary that the marketing language and the strategy that I used so far in some marketplace will fit other. So this is something that you can do, like this kind of research, and to show me, to help me and lead me to use the right strategy and the marketing language.
Yeah, especially like this is why I send, even though I'm a copywriter and my team does copywriting, whenever it comes to translations, I send them over to Yana because I don't know the language, the marketing language in Germany, for example. Something I learned from Yana is that in Germany, they don't like to be sold to. They don't like salesy language. So it's not like we just can take our listing and just translate it, right? Because they like things to be very matter of fact. It's part of their culture, right? So it is important to understand, like, okay, how do I sell this to that market? Like, what do my photos need to look like? If I've made it really promotional and that worked really great for the US, that might not translate to Germany.
Great. Thank you. Okay, thank you for that, Amy. You leaving us now, or you will stay a little bit more?
I'll stay for a few more minutes, sure.
Great. Thank you for that. Okay, Steve, how are you?
I'm good. I tell you, I'm learning a lot today. It's really good because to me, the takeaway should be for anybody listening that you need experts to help guide you through the jungle, right? And the whole point is that, like, I don't want to be an expert on anything. And I've been, running my own businesses for, over 30 years now, and started in e-commerce in the late 90s and on Amazon in the early 2000s and have sold on Amazon and beyond. One brand of ours had 40 different countries in it. And we've learned every lesson that they've described to you the hard way, right? So my recommendation is that people take a step back and start with the outcome that they want in mind, right? And you engineer the outcome. So you say, all right, I'm launching this on Amazon in country X. And then you do your research. Does this keyword, can I compete? Is there enough depth of market, or is it too saturated, right? Because that's a fine line. If there's not enough depth of market and you go, oh, this is hardly competitive, probably not that great of a market. On the other hand, if you got 50 pages, as Amy or Yana described, it's like, all right, pass on that keyword, move on to another set. And so all of that then comes back to, is this product something I can sell in a particular market? Many products can cross over, but not always, right? Almost every answer to every question you've asked is, it depends, right? And so that's not a great answer, but it still depends. So I want to just remind people that your takeaway should be, stop trying to be an expert in everything and go find the experts, right? You got Yana, you got Melanie and Tim, you got Amy. There are so many people up and down the line that can help you fill in the blanks. And I know
you know what we say in Hebrew? That I'm not rich enough to use not professional services.
There you go. It's the perfect thing. Listen, my natural instinct is I don't want to spend extra money, right? But the question is, what is the ROI on that money? And that's something that people don't always think of. They're like, I'd rather not spend the money on a professional, so I'm gonna do it myself, or I'm gonna find somebody on Fiverr to screw it up for me. And by the way, they'll give you a great price on screwing things up. So there's lots of ways you can screw things up very, very inexpensively. Or you can just say, no, let me be strategic. Let me actually be a professional CEO, leader, whatever you've appointed yourself.
Amazon advertising is happy to take your money for your non-optimized listing.
Listen, that thing is like a wood chipper for your wallet, right? Just keep 100%. Feeding it. It'll take it a thousand years. It'll take it without ever telling you you're making mistakes. So get professionals in every category. Don't expect that you're going to be, at their high level of every category, but be educated enough to ask questions, hold them to account. And the last thing I'll leave you with is the biggest mistake I see CEOs and leaders make is they resolve, you know what, I do need experts. And they bring in the expert, whether it's pay-per-click or translation or whatever, and then they abdicate the responsibility. Instead of checking in, instead of setting metrics ahead of time, instead of managing actively, they just abdicate, and then they go, well, that person, that service, that whatever sucked. Instead of going, no, I sucked because I didn't manage them. I didn't do my job. I didn't set out what the clear milestones and metrics would be. So how can they hit a target that they don't even know exists? And being a leader, listen, it's not always fun. It's not always easy, but that's why we get paid, right? We get paid to lead and to design strategy. And that's ultimately the lesson that I've learned over 30 years. And the lesson takeaway from today is go find the experts, line them up, and manage them well.
Great. So this is the biggest nugget that we can take from here. But I want to talk with you about your profession, about sourcing. So, all of us in the last 2 years have a lot of problems in our supply chain, and all of us looking for solutions. I heard some of you were talking about Mexico in the beginning of the webinar. So can you tell us what's going on there? Like, we should keep working with Alibaba and wait 2 months for our inventory until it will arrive to United States, or already the sellers, or maybe the new sellers, getting new solutions and new sources in the US or maybe in Europe?
Gosh, I tell you, I'm going to tee up Amy so that she can come in and tell you why Mexico is a good option. But I want to just explain something from a global perspective. And by the way, I've done many podcasts and spoke at many conferences around the world on this to all kinds of audiences, not just e-commerce, but, bankers and, government people and all kinds of stuff. Deglobalization is here, right? Everybody who thinks that this is just a passing problem with freight or with inconsistency or COVID lockdowns or tension in war-torn areas, that anybody who thinks this is a passing thing, think again.
It's not going to get better.
No. In fact, this might be the best time that you ever see in the future as it relates to global trade. So what does that mean? The takeaway should be, wherever your target market is, try to get your source of product closest to that sales market.
So let me tell you about my experience. I'm trying to launch. I didn't buy yet. I didn't found this supplier yet, but I'm trying to launch a new product that made from bamboo. And I started to look for suppliers in the US, in Mexico, in Peru, in some different places. And I found some sites on Google, and they sent tons of emails, and nothing happened. Nobody could understand that I'm really serious.
Yeah, can I touch on that before I have to go?
Yeah, of course.
I'm hopping
give
off
us,
to another
like,
webinar,
give us little advice.
and then I'm sure like Steve will have a ton to add to this, and you know he's the master at this stuff. So here's the thing: no other country is China when it comes to sourcing. None of them are. None of them. To expect to replace what we've spent the last 30, 40 years building in China from around the world, people from around the world have gone to China and set up factories and partnered with them and grown China into what it is today. So we cannot expect countries that are outside of China to be at that level. Secondly, the product that you were trying to source, bamboo, is more likely to be sourced in China anyway, because there's much more material there, or even in India, right? But again, India is much further behind in the manufacturing line. Does that mean that we shouldn't consider places like Mexico, right? Like Steve said, we want to get we want to shorten our supply chain as much as possible, right? In Mexico, if you can get your products made there or even finished there, here's another thing you can do. You can import your raw materials from most likely China to a factory in Mexico, and you can get your stuff finished there. And now the country of origin changes depending on how much you're actually changing that product. We're not trying to get around the tax laws, guys, but or the tariff laws. But the bottom line is there's free trade between Mexico and the US. So if you can import your raw materials and work with a factory to get that finished, to get your goods finished there, now the country of origin changes to Mexico. And now instead of spending thousands of dollars shipping your products and 30 days of waiting plus port congestion and any other delays you have, you are spending 2 days in shipping time and sometimes hundreds of dollars, because ground transportation, except for the price of fuel right now, is pretty reasonable, right, compared to air freight or overseas transport. So just thinking about those things. Now, does that mean I'm just going to be able to call up a factory in Mexico and that I Googled and be like, hey, can you make this?
Where do I start?
That's the thing. You start by knowing your product and your materials and your manufacturing process. You need to have more conversation. You need to think of, just like we had to go to China for the last 30 years to help them set up, partner with factories, set up factories there, all of that. That's happening in Mexico already. Many automotive manufacturers have already moved completely to Mexico, but they're moving there. They're working with the factories. Does that mean that you can't source a finished good in Mexico? Certainly not. You can source most wood, metals, plastics, those kinds of goods, finished goods in Mexico. But if you're looking to develop a product from scratch, you cannot expect it to be like working with a factory that you chat with over Alibaba. You have to put in the work. You have to build that relationship, which, oh, by the way, will pay off in China too. You know, that's going to really make a difference if you build relationships with your factories, no matter where you source from. But the bottom line is none of these countries that you source from are going to be like China. So how do you do it? You have to build those relationships. You have to figure out what the culture is in that country that you're trying to source from. You have to communicate. You can't just stop at the first quote and go, oh my gosh, that's too expensive, or that's not going to work for me, and quit there. We have to work together. You have to develop those partnerships. But what are you going to get in return for that? You're going to get your shortened timelines. You're going to get really great, you know, getting your products closer to there. You're going to get free trade. You know, there's a lot of payoffs for putting that into more upfront work. So yeah, that's what we're doing with the Mexico trip, is really trying to teach you all about the culture and stuff there, because it's not China, because there is no Alibaba, because the best thing that we can do is meet in person and really develop those relationships. So as I mentioned, you might not be able to source everything from Mexico or from the Americas or from Taiwan or Vietnam or whatever, but you can have those conversations, build those relationships, and really make something work there.
Thank you for that, Amy. It was really clear and helpful. Tim, good evening, or good afternoon, sorry.
Good afternoon.
How are you?
Just before Tim chimes in, one thing that...
I see that Amy went, so thank
yes.
you to Amy for the presentation.
Yeah. Sorry, Iga. One thing that I was going to say that sort of like was mentioned by Amy and Steve was knowing about your product. And what sort of like comes into play about knowing your product, it's cost analysis. As far as like knowing how much it costs you to manufacture that product, how much it's going to be costing you on extra costs, on translation cost, on the VAT costs, how much is the services that Melanie will be providing you, it's going to be, so it's knowing all the costings from a CEO point of view. You know, you hear people turning around and say, do you this business sitting at the beach side and sipping cocktails? You know, I wish it was that easy, because I'd be out of here. Honestly, I wouldn't be stuck in an office 24/7. It's not that easy, but knowing more about your product. And one thing that is very important, I worked for a company some years ago, I was charged, and I didn't know anything about China. And when I was asked to pay the 30%, I thought, you know, I want to waste company money that I can actually, in the event these companies, they disappeared from China. And this was about, I think it was early 2000s, 2004, 2005. And I remember paying 30%, and they came back to say, hey, we need money for mold. I was like, what is mold? They say we need to build a mold for your product. So it goes back with sourcing in Mexico. That because I paid for the mold in China, you know, transfer that mold now. The mold needs to be somewhere else, whether that's India or Mexico. But again, I think we need to have a mental switch and sort of like take the 30, 40 years ago that people have been working on, because we've taken this route of China because it's easy, because we think that, you know, it's already a developed route. So I just want to follow people because they've always done that. Nia has sourced in China, I have to source in China. Why can't I actually break that mold and sort of like look at other places whereby I can actually source my product? Yeah, thank you. I just want to chime in on that.
Guys, maybe we should leave everything and go and create a sourcing platform to South America. I believe we will be very successful.
The truth is the challenge. So Amy pointed out the difference between kind of China and the rest of the world, right? China became the easy button. You send a photo, they send a product, you know, everybody's happy. But the truth is, I really want people, I always suggest they read the book Poorly Made in China by Paul Midler to tell you your real kind of negotiating adversary and your production adversary. Not as a downplay against China, because I bought hundreds of millions of dollars from China over the years. They can be excellent and wonderful, and many of us are speaking on devices that were made in China right now, so it's fine. But if it's not actively managed, could have problems, and the problems will continue, if not increase, as it relates to the capital markets there crumbling, and the real estate pressure, and many things that I've done other podcasts and things on. The one thing about your bamboo question, I think this is a good question for everybody to take a lesson from. You need three things to manufacture something. You need energy, right? They have to have the power to produce. You need people. You got to have talent to actually put hands on the product. And you need raw materials. And the truth is, China's running out of people. It often lacks energy. And raw materials, it's better than average, but not perfect. So bamboo, yeah, it's got a lot of bamboo, but so does India, so does Thailand, so does Vietnam, right? You go up and down the bamboo. What doesn't have bamboo? Mexico. Mexico does not have bamboo. So you're kind of out like a trout there. You need to go where your raw materials are and then match it up with energy and people. This goes for every raw material that you consider. And so you may say, well, gosh, my U.S. market is really important to me. Maybe I switch it to another material. Maybe it's birch or some other sustainable, FSC wood. There's lots of ways to do this. But to me, the takeaway is, and I can tell you from firsthand experience, we're spending 3 to 5 times as much in our merchandising and sourcing department for the same output. Okay. Melanie talked about knowing your landed cost, knowing your total inputs. That cost is going to get higher because you got to get better, more sophisticated, have drawing specifications that you didn't have to do with China. They just kind of sent you stuff and you hope there wasn't a problem, and you did an inspection and that's worked largely. But I can tell you that is a risk. And we've now moved. So in the last several years, since the tariffs started coming in and since we saw this geopolitical tension, we've moved maybe 60% of our stuff out of China to all kinds of different places. One reason nobody can replace China is they got 1.5 billion people. Mexico's got 50 million. Vietnam's got 110 million. You can't just replace China as easily as we would wish. So stay nimble, stay quick, think strategically and also critically about your options. That's my advice.
Great. Thank you for the answer. And I just want to go back to Tim Nelson. And I want to talk with you about, now we're going in a different way, in the other way. We're going from other marketplaces back to the US. And could you point us some, common mistakes that people doing when they expand their business from Europe or from, Japan to the States?
Yeah, definitely. I just wanted to say first that the tax side now just seems really easy after going through everything that Steve and everyone said. Wow, there's a lot of things that you've got to think of before even starting to enter the marketplace, like let's say in the United States. But let's say you've got some of this figured out or most figured out, and you've got products that are selling well in Europe and you want to try to get into the United States and start selling. So what we can do for you is really what was mentioned before is, hire us as the professional so that we can get everything set up for you correctly the first time. We'll really hold your hand to say, get your company registered here with the IRS. Again, in the US, there's two different taxing agencies. There's the federal, and then there's the state. And there's 50 different states. So it's like 50 different countries.
Your first advice is opening a company in the States, like LLC?
Nope, you don't have to open a company. You just have to register a company.
Right.
Now, it could be your company in Israel, or you can decide to register a company and start a new company here in the US.
I just wanted to ask you, because many people ask me, what is the advantage of being LLC and not individual seller in the States?
Oh, it depends. There could be a couple of reasons. One of the biggest reasons why, say, somebody may want to open up an LLC in the United States, as opposed to, let's say, using their company in Israel, is they may want to exit somewhere down the line and sell their branch, let's say, in the United States. And having that separated from their home business makes it easier to sell certain parts off. There may be tax advantages depending on which country you're selling from. So opening up a LLC or even a C corporation here in the United States may be more advantageous than selling from the company you have formed in your home business, home country, excuse me. But let's say you're just first considering wanting to sell into the United States. It actually can be very straightforward. As I believe Melanie was mentioning before with Marketplace Facilitator Tax, there's 50 different states in the US that have their own sales tax. But Amazon's really kind of wiped that off the map. They collect and remit the sales tax for you for just about every state. So really what you need to do is register a company, whether it be your home company or you start one here, and register for sales tax in I think just a couple of states right now. Once you've done that, there's a couple other forms that need to be filed with Amazon and a yearly tax return that will need to be filed with the IRS, basically just called a protective return, and you're done. Really, you've kind of done everything you needed to do to get yourself set up here in the US to be able to sell. You get yourself on Amazon.com, put all the information in there so you get set up your account and you start selling. You get your inventory into the country and start getting things forward. We at Avask can take care of the rest. But really, just getting registered, getting yourself set up so you can start selling is pretty straightforward if you know what you're doing.
And Tim, as an US expert, do you think that today there is a yet chance for new sellers to success on Amazon, or they should look for other marketplaces like maybe Walmart, which you talked about before?
Actually, yes, I think there's definitely room for new sellers to sell on Amazon. What I've seen, and definitely in the past few years, is that anyone selling on Amazon is going to sell their product. It's amazing. It doesn't matter what they're selling. It sells on Amazon.com.
The question is if with profit or without.
Well, that's the question, right? It'll sell, trust me, because I think when you talk about market saturation, it's not that the Amazon US market is oversaturated with sellers. it's oversaturated with buyers. There's just so many buyers on Amazon.com. Now, again, back to the point you made before, it's a different question on whether you're going to sell for a profit or not. That's a different story. But I think that for Amazon, the marketplace is very saturated with buyers. But so many sellers are looking to sell on different marketplaces, like, as you said, Walmart. And I think the most popular marketplace people are trying to expand with is Shopify. Again, Shopify obviously has its advantages with, I guess, lower fees. You're kind of selling through your own website, stuff like that. But it hasn't really matched the, the power that Amazon is. You always have higher sales on Amazon, but everyone is always constantly looking to sell on different marketplaces. And in doing so, let's say with Walmart, your tax responsibilities don't change. Just selling on Amazon, selling on Walmart, everything's the same. It's just selling on two different marketplaces. If you were to sell on Shopify, though, that's a different story, and a lot of different tax rules would come into effect if you look to sell there.
Great. Thank you for that answer, Tim. Nir, how are you?
Well, it's first time in my life that I sit for 1 hour and don't say nothing.
I know.
But that means it was very, 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 very interesting one.
Yeah, actually, you know what?
I learned so much.
Usually, after 3 or 4 years of broadcasting in Amazon Nonstop Group, I heard everything about any subject. And to be honest, in some cases, I get bored really fast. And it's not happened yet, so I'm really happy about that panel. It was seriously very, very useful and very helpful for everybody, and we talked about many different subjects. But still, I want to get back to our subject we started to talk about at the beginning, about expanding your business. Can you give us some, few nuggets, few tips about how to expand in the correct way? From your point of view, of course.
Sure. So I have a lot of experience of some product that was bestseller on Amazon US, and let's copy paste to Europe, and nothing happened. It was a lower seller. So I want to speak about just about two issues. First issues, and we're confusing because the Amazon user interface of the Seller Central. And I'll tell you why. You wake up in the morning, you go to Seller Central, you go to Amazon.com to see the sales. Okay, nice, and you just switch to DE or NL, and you not understood this is same Seller Central, but this is different market, absolutely different. Okay, this is different client, different DNA, different fashion, different seller, and different product. And you're confused because it's same Seller Central, but it is not. It's not. It's like you open a new account now, and you build a new brand awareness in the country. You need to learn this country. You need to feel the country. And I agree with everyone speak before, because in the past we will try to translate with some experience, not machine, but it's not working. I found work for me best is to found, for example, in Germany, I have some activity there to found a German copywriting that live in German. She's not now in Israel. She's living in German, and she feel the vibes of German, and she look TV shows on German and read the magazine of German, because if not, it's not going to work. So my first tip, take yourself seriously. Don't do it like Israeli. The second one is, look, when I see barriers to the market, it looks like a fence. And I so love it. And I tell you why. For example, now in Europe, of course, Avask can speak about more than I. You need to write EPR, and you need to put the VAT number or one-stop shop. And you need, in German, if you sell toys like me, you need a URI number. So I open a company in German. It's a lot of fence. And it's a great opportunity. I'm Israeli, and I can't win the Chinese in the price. Never. He's all the time going to win in the price. I can win him in strategic, in marketing. Okay, this is my way. And where there is a fence, because we like to break the fence. And if we do the fence and we want harder and we try better, then I can win him. For example, the percent of Amazon sellers in Amazon, the Chinese sellers in Amazon US is higher a lot from in Europe, because there is more regulation. So this is my opportunity to win them. So every time you see a fence, like translation, see how much single topic we spoke, VAT, URI number, all that, it's okay. It's our options to win the market. And by the way, I very, very love the Europe market. It's a huge market. And just read the research now about the Europe e-commerce market that is growing in crazy numbers. By the way, Amazon is not the only marketplace in the Europe market. There is a lot of great marketplaces, for example, bol.com and Allegro and a lot of more. And if you build the asset right, you can sell all over. You have the supply chain, you have the fulfillment warehouse, you have the VAT, you have the EPR, everything. Now you can grow all over these great marketplaces in Europe. This is my tips, my 2 cents for this great webinar.
Sorry, I have a little bit noise here.
Yeah. I was going to say to Nia, I totally agree that Europe at the moment, the EU market is worth over 717 billion euros, and I look at that, and this is not including UK, by the way. UK alone, it is 161 billion euros. And that is huge. And you're right that Europe is sort of like one of those marketplaces that it's ignored because people think of their regulation. They think, oh, red tape, don't go. But it is an opportunity for some of those people that are smart, that think that, do you know what, I will go where nobody goes. And it takes us back to the Mexico or to the India route. Why should I always look at buying my products from China? I will go where nobody goes, or where everybody says it's difficult. That's where I want to go, because, and again, as a CEO, it's raising the bar. If it's easy, it's going to be right here. You can jump this very easy. But if it's up here, it's about you going beyond, going the hardest route, because it means that where there's nobody, what do they say, Steve? The less traveled route is one of the hardest one.
Sure, yeah, the road less traveled. Listen, I just want to make sure that I reinforce the importance of Melanie's message, and for that matter, Nir's message, which is, you should look at those moats or fences, or however you want to think of the metaphor. Those obstacles are your advantage. If it was easy, anybody could do it, right? And this is why China shows up and goes, hey, this is pretty easy. I want to just sell at the factory price, break even on Amazon fees. We're all middlemen, by the way. For those of you who don't own a factory, raise your hand, right? That's certainly me. We're middlemen. That means we have to add value in the middle for those keeping score at home. And so it's marketing, it's language. I could give you a ton of stories about how we sucked terribly in Germany and France, but blew it up in Italy and Spain and UK because we didn't do translation right. You know, I could tell you other stories where we didn't, where the UK actually outsold America because we got the flywheel spinning on Amazon and Google and so forth, right? There's opportunity everywhere. My advice, though, remains, because I think cross-border trade is really, really important and easier now than it's ever been, is just be strategic about it. Just go, you know what? I got a good thing going in the US or in Europe, but what's the easiest thing for me to bolt on? If you're already in the US, why not bolt on the UK? That's a pretty easy thing. If you're already in the UK, bolt on Europe. That's a lateral move in relatively close proximity, and Avask will handle all the busy work and paperwork. Sorry, Avask, but I hate that stuff. Like every customs document, every clearance document, I'm shopping on Amazon for a noose, right? To just put myself out of the misery, right? I hate it. So I have to have these people who are really, really good to handle all of these things that I'd never want to know about. And so whether you want to go to Japan or Germany or, Brazil, or, pick your market, just be strategic about it. And think from the sourcing through to the keyword, through to the execution of marketing, and that regionalization that Jana talks about. Well, Yana is how she likes to pronounce it. I'm very American, so I just read what's on the screen.
You're localizing my name. That's totally fine.
Yeah, thank you. And if I was in Mexico, I would also say Yana. So, but Yana just gave a great presentation of the Empowery community about that regionalization. And I think you should do that for your business. I think you should do it for your language. I think you should do it for your product.
Yeah,
Great.
absolutely, absolutely.
Amazing.
And that's one thing that we've seen also as a company, where we've always had our business development officers here in the UK and have the tax offices in all these countries in Europe and as well as the US. But one thing that we've actually been looking at is that we are looking for business development officers that are going to be based out in the US, that are going to be speaking the language. So localization becomes even more important now. Nia is going to be giving me getting me a whole team in Israel that is going to be speaking Hebrew, and they're going to be speaking with the clients in Israel at a local language, because these guys here, they are great. They speak English. I mean, I think English speakers, we are very complacent because we sort of like look at the language and thinking of it as a qualification that you are educated enough. Why aren't you not speaking English? Because everybody's, but we forget about the fact that, we need to do things more at a local level. We've launched our business development team in Milan and Madrid and Paris, and all of a sudden we've never had to have websites in those countries. We need to be local, and the clients have actually gone very clever as well, the Amazon sellers that are launching, because before we were like sitting here at Buckingham Palace thinking that the clients will just ring in and look for us. Right now, you have to be where your clients are. You cannot just think that you're going to be launching. And I remember very well 2014, and I actually corrected, I'm not going to say names, but at one of the biggest platforms, they were sending clients over to us. And in that process, they were giving them Google Translate to say, here, this is what you must use for your translation. And that's when, translation was not that much popular. It was disaster. It was disaster. Now, Yana has come in, or companies like YLT Translations have come into this market space, and they say, no. You're going to have to translate. I had our very first client was from Hong Kong and was selling all the jackets, beautiful garments, clothing. And she said, Melanie, I'm stopping to sell because I'm not doing well in Europe. I was like, no, it's an impossibility. No chance. And I'm looking on the internet and I'm thinking, your products are brilliant. They are decent. You deserve to do more. And I'm thinking, do you know what, Tim? So what we're going to do, all of us, we're going to buy some stuff. And I'm promoting, when we first started, I was promoting my clients' Amazon store. I was like to my team, we're buying local. We're supporting our clients. So I thought, do you know what? I'm going to buy these jackets. Yes, size 12. I was slimmer then. I'm going to buy this jacket. Brilliant pair of shoes and all that. It comes back. My daughter can fit in this. What is it? It's Chinese sizes. And it makes sense why she couldn't sell. It makes sense. 1 year I traveled to China and I decide, or I forget shoes. And I'm thinking, shoes are manufactured in China. I'm going to go to the malls and buy loads of pairs of shoes for about $1 a pair. We went to about 4 or 5 malls. I did not find a pair of shoes that fitted me size 7. I couldn't find it. This was in Hangzhou, by the way. I couldn't find a pair of shoes. I was in stilettos for 14 days. The only time I had a break is when I got to the hotel room to wear shoes.
Well, guys,
that's localization for you.
Well, guys, we're getting to the end, and actually I'm enjoying, and I promise...
Can we stay?
Sorry?
We're enjoying. Maybe we can stay.
Yeah, I will stay here.
joking,
After everybody will leave, I will stay here alone in my virtual area. So I promise to our audience that we will answer to the questions. So let's make it really quick. So I see one question that's been answered by Yana. Can you translate listing you don't own? Yes, absolutely. Sagi Goldberg, is it better to connect or separate accounts for different marketplaces? Who want to answer?
Do they maybe mean different ASIN numbers or just the accounts?
Just the accounts.
No,
I think so.
That. I tell you why. Of course, it depends. If you're going to make a bad things, don't go to Amazon. Okay. This is the logic of this question. Why to separate the account? Now, if you want to exit, you need the one account with a trademark in all the country, in all Europe, and all that, with all the data of France, UK, DE. There is not any logic to do it. So the answer is not. But if you're afraid that Amazon is going to close your account, don't start, even if it's one.
Great. Okay, next. It's not a question. Nirave just want to tell us, everybody, that we work with Yana Krekic. I hope that I say your name right. Sorry.
Yeah, nailed it. Perfect.
Okay, we are always getting fantastic translation. Highly recommended. Okay, great. And I see that we don't have any more questions, Guy, and we are getting to the end. And for those people now that watching the replay, or anyone who just said now because he can't ask any more questions and hear us another couple of hours, we have news for you, because we have some friends who are arriving soon to Israel. Guys, who from you is coming?
Yes, so
Nir, I know that we'll be there. Okay.
Yes,
Melanie?
I am coming. I'm coming with a crew of 6 people.
Wow.
So it's gonna be a large group.
Let's tell to our audience where you're coming to. So in the end of May, and what is the exact date, Nir? In 30 of May,
31.
Right? 31 of May, we will have a huge, big e-commerce conference here in Israel in what the name of the hotel, Nir?
David Intercontinental.
It's a great hotel in the south part of the beach in Tel Aviv.
In Jaffa and Tel Aviv, yeah.
Yeah. So everybody will enjoy it. There is included like a lunch, and a lot of different interesting panels about Amazon and about different subjects on the e-commerce world. And we, Amazon Nonstop Group, and thank to Avital, who just responsible for that conference, we arranged some discount for our viewers and for our group. I just scrolled it on the screen. Everybody's supposed to see it now. Okay, great. So we have a coupon code of 15%. You can see now on the screen, and if you will have some troubles or the code wouldn't apply, you just can connect with me or with Hanit or with Nir. Actually, Hanit published a lot of posts in the last couple weeks about this conference, and you can get all the information there. It's going to be interesting and going to be huge. The weather is going to be great, close to the beach, and the most important thing, that all the friends from Avask, me and Nir and many other different professionals will be there, will perform there, and we're waiting for that, right? So yeah. I'm really excited, and I believe that you as well, guys, because somebody told me that Melanie never been in Israel.
Yes. It's amazing because I'm going to this event, and then after the event, I'm coming back home, and I've just been invited to a wedding. So one of my clients is getting married. So I'm going to be in Israel on the 14th of June for the wedding. So
great. Yeah.
All of a sudden, I'm going to be there every month.
Yeah, maybe it's some hint from the universe. You need to think about it.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Okay, yeah. Guys. So you stay with us in our group in Amazon Nonstop, So you don't have a choice. You can't leave now. You will stay with us forever. So, dear audience, if you want to forward more questions, you can just post a comment on the broadcast post. And if you need some services, and I believe that you can use some professional service from the panel that is here now on the screen, I think you should use. You can contact with each of them personally. And guys, I want to thank you personally and to tell you that I enjoyed every second and every minute, and thank you for cleaning your schedule for us and being for us. And I'm sorry that I didn't give more stage time for each of you, but you know, we have only 1 hour and we're 7, so maybe next time, you know, we have maybe we should schedule one more webinar in the future. And I hope you enjoyed as well. And thank you.
Yes, thank you.
Thank you for having us. And again, if any of the people that are here, they want to contact directly or there's an information, I think they can get me on melanie@avaskgroup.com. Just send us a quick message about any question that you may have. Thank you.
Could you post your details on the broadcast post later? Like, could you leave it in comments?
I will send it for Chanit, and she will maybe do it.
Yeah, great. Okay, Chanit, I believe that Chanit already doing that because she can't see that something is not arranged as she imagined it. So great. So guys, thank you. Good night. Good afternoon.
Thank you
good
so
morning.
much.
Thank you.
Take care, everybody.
Thank you so much, guys.
Thank
See you in Ecommerce 2022. See you.
See you in Ecommerce. Yeah.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye. Bye.